Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us here tonight for Ask 9. My name is Becky Phelps. Our question tonight revolves around an I-9 investigation from TV9 reporter Brian Tabick. The I-9 investigation finds that Iowans who are completely sober are getting arrested for drunk driving. We're going to show you the story, then break down of your question about the story, and then I'll talk with Brian to really get a deep dive into his reporting about it.
Each year, thousands of Iowans are charged with OWI, operating while intoxicated. But we found some of those were actually completely sober. That arrest is not only embarrassing, it can cost people their jobs, relationships, and legal bills. And we found no one is tracking how often it happens or holding officers accountable if they get it wrong.
Jasper 639 traffic.
This is Newton Police Officer Nathan Winters on a traffic stop in August of 2022.
The reason I pulled you over is because you have your bright lights on.
Yeah, I have a headlight out.
The driver is Taven Galanakis. He's 19 years old here and a member of the William Penn football team out of Oskaloosa.
Where are you coming from?
Friend's house.
Okay. Anything to drink over there?
He says no, but Officer Winters thinks he's acting odd. He takes Galanakis into his squad car for questioning and says this.
I've had nothing to drink.
Okay. So your movements in the car with you fumbling over the registration?
Yep.
Kind of say otherwise.
All right.
And so does the odor of alcohol coming from your person.
Galanakis offers to do a breathalyzer test, but Officer Winters insists on a field sobriety test first. Galanakis gets upset and starts mocking the officer.
So Officer Winters thinks I'm drinking tonight. We're about to do a test, and he's going to find out I had nothing to drink. He's going to look stupid. Ain't that right?
The officer runs Galanakis through a series of tests, checking his eyes.
Can you see my finger clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Doing heel-to-toe steps. Galanakis believes he's successfully passing the test.
Come on, man. It's too easy.
But Officer Winters says otherwise.
2 for 2.
Well, sir, I don't believe you are 2 for 2. How many steps did I say to take?
When Galanakis does a breathalyzer test, it detects 0 alcohol. Then Officer Winters, after earlier saying Galanakis smelled of alcohol, changes his theory.
When's the last time you smoked weed?
I do not remember that.
Tonight?
No.
Okay, well, I think it's tonight.
I've had no weed tonight.
Jasper 639 on PCT.
What? Why do you think it's tonight? Why do you think I smoked? I blew zeros, so now you're trying to think I smoke weed. That's what's going on. You can't do that, man. You really can't do that.
Absolutely I can.
Is he allowed to do that?
Yes, he is.
Officer Winters handcuffs Galanakis and takes him back to the police department.
Right now you're being placed under arrest for operating while intoxicated, okay?
There, a drug recognition specialist with the department determined he had no drugs in his system.
Bottom line up front, we're going home tonight, okay? I have no evidence or no information to suggest that you're under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Thank you.
Galanakis is now suing the Newton Police Department, set for trial next spring. But his case isn't isolated. In Bremer County, Dominic Tangent is suing the Iowa State Patrol for a July 2023 arrest. Court records show Trooper Bryce Billers, a drug recognition specialist, believed Tangent was high on a stimulant. Tangent says he was held for 6 hours, strip searched, and charged with OWI. More than 2 months later, urine tests showed he wasn't high on anything. He was completely sober, and prosecutors dropped the charges. Do people know this is happening?
I don't think enough people know, no.
Bobby Ray Kemper is a Des Moines attorney who specializes in OWI cases.
How much have you had to drink tonight?
None.
He says he gets around 10 to 20 of these types of cases each year. Someone charged with OWI when they're completely sober.
I don't believe that the general public would truly appreciate the frequency that this happens.
But it's impossible to know exactly how frequently because no one tracks it. An open records request found more than 2,000 OWI cases dismissed in the past 2 years, but most were part of plea agreements and don't account for people arrested but not charged. The Iowa Department of Public Safety logs breathalyzer tests performed when someone is taken into custody for OWI. This is the more than 11,000 tests conducted between September of last year and September of this year. Of those, 956 detected 0 alcohol. But that doesn't mean the driver wasn't high on another drug. And Ray Kemper says that's the problem. He says he's seen more sober drivers arrested for OWI as legal marijuana, prescriptions, and other drugs become more prevalent.
A lot of it came on the heels of the popularity of the focusing on impairment by drugs other than alcohol, which would include regular controlled substances, illegal, illicit substances.
So law enforcement had to rely on field sobriety tests to make an arrest. And Ray Kemper says those tests are flawed because the scoring is based on the officer's opinion.
They're simply excuses to further investigate and ultimately arrest people who, as you're finding out, turn out to be actually innocent.
So what happens if, nothing pops up? Do you get in trouble?
No. Why would I get in trouble?
Officers who arrest a sober person by mistake wouldn't face any legal consequences, but taxpayers might if they have to pay damages for a wrongful arrest. Major Colson with the Lynn County Sheriff's Office says when it comes to driving under the influence, even getting it wrong is okay because it beats the alternative of having an impaired driver keep driving.
The biggest thing was that person impaired? Officers, they don't have to be right, they have to be reasonable. Is this person safe to drive? Are they a danger to themselves or other people on the road? That's the biggest thing that these deputies are going to be making decisions on, is this person impaired?
But Ray Kemper argues that's not fair to the drivers, who ended up arrested for something they didn't do.
People that work in that industry believe that getting arrested is no big deal. Well, if you've been through and actually gotten arrested, it's a really big deal.
When I say begin, I want
How many false accusations you got?
0.
It's about to be your first.
Both Newton Police and Gallinakis' attorneys declined to speak with us on camera about this incident. Officer Winters is also suing Gallinakis for defamation for the video he posted on social media. As for the State Patrol's video of Tangen's arrests, because the suit was filed over 2 years after the arrest, the State Patrol had deleted the video per protocol. In a follow-up I'm working on, we'll break down how field sobriety tests work and how easy it is to fail them. In the studio, Brian Tabick, KCRG TV 9 News.
TV9's Brian Tabick joins us now to help break down that story, which you worked on for months. I mean, this has been a really big investigation.
Several months, just trying to get all the right pieces in place, gather the correct information to try and put this together. I mean, we've called multiple different people. We tried to talk to the person inside of this actual story as well, and this is how it kind of fell into place.
I want to ask, how did you even find the idea to do this story? How did you learn that this was something happening to Iowans?
So this is not just happening to Iowans, this is happening all across the country. We actually learned about this investigation through IRE, which is like a special investigative class that happens every year. We went there, we saw what was happening, like, okay, well, let's see through some of those resources, is this happening in Iowa? It certainly is, and more than people would think.
So what was your reaction when you first heard about this story? The reaction from our viewers has been just shock, really.
To be fair, it's eye-opening, but also not surprising. I mean, when you see officers putting people through that field sobriety test, as someone who's never done it, it does make you nervous. Can I do some of these things? I have back problems, and I was wondering if I could balance and do some of those things. I went through one of the sobriety tests. So from that aspect, it is kind of nerve-wracking. But yeah, I mean...
It's such an interesting topic. It's not something you would think that's going on, really.
No, I guess, yeah, you wouldn't think it was going on, but I have the facts to show that it is.
Yeah, no kidding. So this got quite the reaction on Facebook, from all of our viewers. We got a lot of interaction with this story. And it is a lot to go through. It is a lot of information. You know it better than anybody. But we have a question that we got from one of our viewers, Megan, who said that she was just a little confused. She said, this is her question, operating while intoxicated also includes being under the influence of other substances, but there is no test for those like blood or breathalyzer. Let's stop there and let's tackle that part of Megan's question first. That's not quite true, is it?
So there are field sobriety tests or tests that can be done to see if people are on some type of narcotic, whether that's weed or what have you. In my investigation, we actually went through this type of test. You can see me
Let's take a look at this.
here, where they're doing similar stuff they would do if they're testing you for alcohol. He's spitting his finger, and I'm following the tip of his finger there. It was kind of a strange movement, honestly, to try and do that. And he comes in close to your nose, and he's just touching your reaction. Here, you're sitting back, and you're just kind of counting to 30, and you're trying to get as close to 30 as you possibly can, but just counting in your head. I got 28. I thought it was pretty good. Here,
wow.
Eyes closed, just touching your nose. And this is what the officers are using to test not for alcohol, but for some other type of narcotic. This is also not something that every officer is trained in. Officers are all trained in to be able to test somebody for being under the influence of alcohol. This is conducted by what's called a drug recognition expert, or a DRE. There are a lot less officers who are actually trained in that. And a lot of that's because it does take a lot of time when you're taking people off of the streets to then go and get this type of training. It is very useful, but then you're putting yourself, do we have enough officers to be able to do the work we need to do back home? So there is some give and take with that.
Okay, so there is an option to do a field test, for both alcohol and for narcotics.
Yes.
It's a little hard sometimes to have those people out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So if they suspect that you are on narcotics and you maybe pass the field sobriety test for alcohol, what happens then? Walk us through that.
So that's exactly what happened with Taven. Mm-hmm. They believed Taven was under the influence of alcohol. They ran him through the field sobriety test. The DRE officer was not able to come meet them out in the field. They brought him back to the station. He's arrested at that point. He's put in handcuffs. He's put in the back of the car, brought to the station, and they treat him as if he's arrested at this point. And then he goes through the other test that we just showed you there, where they're checking to see if he's under the influence of some other type of substance. In this case, the drug recognition expert decided he's not. He didn't see anything in the test that he was doing to determine that he was under the influence.
Now remind me, did Taven have to go through any kind of like blood or any other tests, or just those recognition tests that you're aware of?
Just the recognition tests that I saw.
Okay, okay. And that kind of gets to the heart of the other part of Megan's questions. When it comes to the attorney, how can the attorney say that they were, quote, sober and not just under the influence of something other than alcohol?
So I don't interpret that the attorney is saying that they're all of them are not under the influence of a drug. But he is saying that people are being arrested who are stone cold sober more often based off of, obviously, his work. But in the last 10 years, he's just seen the increase in the number of people, as you've seen increases in prescription drugs, other narcotics, as legal marijuana, just a couple states over here. And here, I mean, this is 11,000. I went through every single one of these, 11,000 from last year. This is all of the breathalyzer tests. About 1% of these, I think it was 900, I think for the number written down right here, what is that? 956 of these were people who blew zeros. Again, that does not mean that these people were not on top of it, or using another type of drug. But no one checks that. There's no one who actually goes through and says, okay, that person wasn't drunk, but they were high. There's no one who actually does that. So what we can infer from this is that some of these people had to have been stone cold sober, some of them not. But there's no way to know the exact number.
You've got a part 2 to this investigation coming up. Can you give us a little sneak peek as to what that is going to talk about?
So we're going to look a little bit more into the actual field sobriety test in itself. So basically, if you talk to the two different parties here, we have police, obviously the attorney, and the police are going to tell you this is a standardized test. All of the officers are trained the same way to look at the same thing, and there's a little card, there's a way to tell if people are under the influence, and it's the same throughout each department. The attorney, on the other hand, is basically saying, well, it's up to the officer. There is some room for interpretation from the officer. we're going through the difficulties of actually being able to go through the field sobriety test. That is the point of this. Taven went through. He believed he was successful in going through the tests, but in court documents and in the video, you see the officer say, I don't believe you were successful. And the reasons he stated were, Taven didn't follow directions. Taven took too many steps. Taven didn't count out loud. There were multiple times where you can point that, according to the police officers, Officer Nathan Winters did the correct action, taking him in if he believed he wasn't being able to successfully pass that sobriety test and have him tested further. I went through that test. It is not easy. Not the listening part. Somehow I got the listening. And that's rare. I tell you, listening's not my strong point there. But
no, you had me go through one of those just a little bit ago, and they are harder than they sound.
I failed.
Yeah, so did I.
So, yeah, that's kind of what we're going to be looking at.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for kind of walking us through this question that we got in. If you have any questions that you want to send us in, send us an email or a Facebook message. We really look forward to hearing what you guys are interested in learning more about. You can join us back here on Monday for the next edition of Ask 9.